Thanks, Rachel, and thanks for having us here today to talk about one of my favourite topics, which is our Mediator Program at Science Gallery. So I'll talk a little bit about, I guess, Science Gallery and our model. We're part of a global network, and the role of the mediators, but I also want to talk a little bit about the impact that the program has had on our mediators and the importance for them in terms of building their own practice and their own networks. So Science Gallery is a new institution to Australia. It's part of a global network, which I'll talk a little bit about, but it's really about the collision of art and science. So not art as a way of communicating science, but really an interdisciplinary practice. So we work a lot with both scientists and artists. We have a lot of research outcomes from our works. So we often partner artists with academic functions of the university in order to extend, I guess, both practices. So this is a work in our exhibition last year by Lucy McRae, who worked with two researchers from the University of Melbourne for a work called Biometric Mirror, which is about facial recognition software. So at the heart of Science Gallery is really this mission about young people. So our target audience is kind of 15 to 25, so quite young. And we're really, I guess, trying to get them to think in this interdisciplinary way. That's really at the heart of what we're doing. So beyond the kind of siloed practice that they get through their educational institutions, we really are trying to get them in a room to think about things in a much more lateral way. So Science Gallery started in Dublin at Trinity College in 2008. So it was really a small initiative of the university there, and they wanted something to engage the public, and they also wanted something that was a new way of showcasing, I guess, the research that was going on inside the walls of the university. And it was super successful in its first year. So from there, this kind of Science Gallery International formed with a view of expanding the network worldwide. So all of the galleries are attached to at least one academic institution. So here it's Melbourne University. And we have galleries in development. London opened their building last year with King's College, right near the Shard. We'll open our building next year in 2020 in Carlton, next to Melbourne Uni. And there's galleries in development in Detroit, Bangalore, Venice, Rotterdam, with two more to come on board. And I guess it sounds like a franchise, but it's not. And I think what really is at the heart of the network is a couple of key principles, and then each location is responding to their local community. So I guess the problems we're trying to solve in Melbourne, or the issues we're trying to discuss, are not the same as our colleagues in Bangalore or Detroit, for example. Each city has a really unique, I guess, responsibility to its local community, but it's guided by these principles, one of which is around our mediators. And to me, it's actually, I think, the most successful part of the network. And I'll go a little bit more into that as well. So our approach, as I said, really develops, I guess, creative thinkers. So we want to kind of break down these silos. I think education's not great at that. Universities aren't necessarily great at that either, though they're getting better. And I think there's a lot more courses dedicated to interdisciplinary thinking and interdisciplinary practice, but we're really trying to, I guess, break down those silos. The other thing that we really want to do is offer opportunity for young people. So we're really, I guess, collaborative in our process, which I'll talk a little bit about as well, but we put young people, so our target audience, at the centre of everything we do. We employ them, we involve them in our curatorial practice, they help us come up with our future themes. So that's again a central part of the Science Gallery mission. So this will be our future building. So we've been doing pop-up program since 2017. So basically exhibition programs in other people's spaces while we're building this new gallery that'll be part of a new innovation precinct in Melbourne. So we'll be the corner space, as you can see, it's all windows, which is I guess unusual for galleries and museums in Australia. So we're really about this transparency. We want young people to be able to see other young people in the gallery and for it to feel like a really accessible and welcome place for them. So far we're in our third program at the moment. First year we did a program on the theme of blood. In our second year we looked at perfection and I guess humans' sort of obsession with perfection. And this year we've been looking at the theme of disposable, so really around waste and looking at it from, I guess, a more creative perspective. So what are kind of creative solutions to our global waste challenge? And they're all themes that we've developed with young people. So I look after the engagement function of the gallery and we're kind of guided by these 4 principles in terms of how we connect with young people. So the first is through our content. So we don't shy away from topics that are often difficult, I guess, for particularly academic institutions to deal with. So, for example, in blood, we looked at it. We had a number of works around menstruation. We had works around stigma of HIV and other blood-borne diseases. We looked at it from a cultural perspective, an Indigenous perspective around bloodlines. Last year with perfection, we had a sex robot in the exhibition. So looking at, I guess, ways that young people can come in and go, oh, wow, this is different to what I'm seeing in other institutions. We embed young people as part of our process, as I've said. We're really about peer-to-peer engagement, and that's where our mediators are central to that. And lastly, interdisciplinary, which I've talked about as well. So in terms of the way that we embed young people, centrally to that is our Mediator Program, which I'll get to, but we also have a group of young people who are with us, kind of like an advisory group. They're ambassadors. All those words don't really work for me. I'm not quite sure what they are yet, and we're still working with them, but they're called Psy-Curious. So they're a group of young people kind of aged 14 to 27, and they get together with us a few times a year. We develop our exhibition themes with them, so they talk about the big issues, I guess, that are on their minds, that they talk about with their friends, the things that are kind of keeping them up at night, all the things that they're excited about. And, you know, they're there to kind of push us a little bit so we don't get... I think institutions can get really internal in the way we talk about things sometimes. I'm sure you all find that in your daily practice too. You get kind of trapped in the organisational speak, and they're there to kind of check us on that a little bit. So, you know, it's hard because they're still are polite people and want to impress us, but we're really, I guess, trying to push them to say, nah, no one says that. That's really daggy. Which, you know, they do, which is great. It's a picture of them. So our Mediator Program, as I said, it's central to the Science Gallery mission, and I believe it's what I think, and I'm sure my colleague Ellie would agree, the best part, I guess, of Science Gallery, and it's the thing we get the most feedback about. You know, they're at our heart. It's something that if you went to any science gallery across the globe, that would be the thing, I think, that is the most consistent. I think the exhibitions would really vary, the themes would vary, the curatorial process would vary, but that part, I think, is the most consistent. So this is a picture of some mediators in Dublin. A lot of our works It's worth saying too, are interactive or have a lot of technology, which means they're often broken. And so it's really important to have that human element in there as well. We don't do traditional text labels either. We often have interactive screens that ask audiences a question for them to respond to. That's often an entryway into the work and a kind of broader description of the work. But for me, it's really important that peer-to-peer interface, so young people meeting other young people and having them not explain the work, but start a conversation around the work. To me, it's less, I think as cultural institutions, and what I really believe in is that, I think arts and culture can offer transformative experiences to young people in particular. I'm sure a lot of us in the room had those as teenagers, and I think the mediators really can help provide that, because they're not going to stand there and explain, this is a work about blah, it's made by this artist who was born. They're really there to start to think about what are the social implications of the issues that this work is talking about, which I think is far more interesting. So who are they? They're the front line of the gallery. They are the face of the gallery. They tell stories, they ask questions, they facilitate an experience. They have an opinion, and that's really important to us. So if they don't like the work, we're okay with them saying that. If they think that, if they have a particular opinion on the topic that the work is pursuing, we want them to say that. We want them to have, I think, as Marion said so well, personality. We hire them for their personalities. We want their opinions in the gallery, and I think that's really comforting for an audience member too. If they're finding some of the concepts, we do work around things like gene editing and that kind of thing. So things that are quite hefty as well. And for someone else to say, yeah, I'm really not sure what I think about that, I think is the best thing that you can hear sometimes. We want them to talk, not explain. And we like people who are a little bit weird. And we try to, I guess, find that out in the interview process and through the training as well, which Ellie will talk a little bit about, but we love a weirdo. And so here's one of our mediators in action at our exhibition last year. Now I want to talk a little bit, I guess, about what the exchange is. So we see the value in the mediators, but what are we giving back to them? And for me, I think, we try to offer these transformative experiences for the audience, but actually where we've seen real transformation is actually for our mediators. So for them, they've come together as a group. Some of them have been with us for 3 years now, and they're forming this amazing network, which is great. I think you can all remember in some of your early professional experiences, forming those core networks that you've still got today. And to see that in them is really powerful, and we really want to keep them, I guess, as part of our tribe, part of our family. So we also offer them experiences back. So not only do we pay them, and we pay them quite well, we, I guess, give them other opportunities. So here you can see young people with the Dean of Science at Melbourne University having, a conversation in a group of 3, which is not an opportunity they're going to get every day. So we give them these things that, I guess, being part of this kind of tribe of mediators, they wouldn't get elsewhere. Here are 2 of our mediators just last week presenting we had a major donation that we had a sort of big, highfalutin university VIP function for, but we made sure they were really the face of that, and that they were talking about the impact, I guess, they see in the audiences, because they see that much more than we do, kind of floating in and out, and they're able to really tell those stories for us. And we pay them, well. And I think that's really important. So we get a lot of people contacting us asking how to be one of our volunteers. They often assume, particularly, in a university context that they're just student volunteers or they're interns, but they're a core part of the team. And so now I'll talk a little bit about the impact that they have on the audience, but also the impact the role has on them. And I think, to me, that's been just such a rewarding part of it. So this was from a visitor to our Blood exhibition, who was an ex-journalist and was saying, you know, that you never want a letter that says, during the 45-minute wait, but go on to say how our mediators talked to their daughter, talked about studying science, talked about her own experience, and the impact that had on her daughter was a really amazing experience, and probably more powerful than the work itself. And then I guess the great thing about the Mediator Program for us too, being part of a global network, is that they're also part of the global network of mediators. So we're now just starting to look at opportunities for how we do exchange programs, how they can go and spend time with our other galleries and meet their colleagues as well. So this was a Science Gallery Dublin mediator, and this is a story that we often get. So we often get students become mediators who are studying science or have put their studies on hold, and they've lost the kind of love for it a little bit, and then they come and they work, I guess, in this field of mediation, and it re-energises them and sends them back into the workforce, and also broadens their view of, oh, I can be a communicator, I can work in other sectors, just to kind of broaden their mind off and outside that quite siloed view of study. This is an image of a work that we just finished last week with Marie Clark and Mitch Marnie, who's a young Indigenous artist, and this is one of our Indigenous mediators there helping make the work, and this was an amazing experience for our Indigenous mediators to be, I guess, part of making the work. It was really powerful. And again, the skills, I guess, that working in mediation offers people in terms of confidence, in terms of communication, and in terms of meeting people that they wouldn't normally meet. I think working with artists when you haven't before can be life-changing, no matter whether you want to work in the arts or not. I think what people can learn from spending time with artists and helping kind of question artistic practice is amazing. And then I'll just end on this one. This is always a nice quote, but looking, I guess, teaching young people too that art and science, there's so much similarity in them. As I said, a lot of our works have research outcomes, so they're communicating that part as well, and they start to see, I guess, the similarities between the scientific process of experimentation. It's very similar to the creative process in a lot of ways. And for this, mediator, I guess, having that experience that did change the course of her life. So I think not only can we have that impact on our audiences through mediation programs, but also the young people that we can employ to be part of our journey as well. Thank you.